Hello, this is Whispers in the Rain. Welcome to tonight's scary story reading. One to keep you company as the storm rolls in. Comment where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Let the rain drown the noise of the outside world, and let the darkness take over from here. He sat in the back seat, surrounded by boxes, his favorite stuffed bear clutched tightly in his lap. The house they were headed to had belonged to a distant relative who died the previous winter. His mother never spoke about who it was, only that they left it to her, and that they didn't have much choice. When they pulled up, the house loomed like a shadow. It was 2 stories tall, flanked by ancient oaks that scratched against the walls like bony fingers in the wind. Paint peeled from the siding, and one shutter hung loose, tapping against the window with a dull, hollow knock. Liam stared up at it in silence, unsure if it looked more like a home or a warning. Inside, the house smelled like dust and something older, like old books and rain-soaked wood. The floor creaked under every step, as though it hadn't been walked on in years. The living room was bare save for a rocking chair in the corner, slowly swaying, as if someone had just stood up and left. His mother said nothing about it, only told him to pick a room upstairs. Liam chose the smallest one at the end of the hall. It had a slanted ceiling, cracked wallpaper, and a wide window that let in the gray light of the afternoon. A twin-size bed sat in the corner, low to the ground with an old wooden frame and a mattress already made up in faded sheets. There was a closet door that didn't quite close and a dusty bookshelf with 3 old toys left behind, 2 wooden blocks, and a hand-carved whistle. "Can I sleep in your room?" Liam asked quietly. His mother, still unpacking in the hallway, didn't look up. "You're a big boy now," she said. "This is your space." He didn't argue. But as night fell and the house settled into silence, Liam pulled the covers up to his chin and stared at the ceiling, wide-eyed, afraid to blink. Then came the whisper. "Liam." He froze. His heart thudded in his chest, the sound loud in the quiet room. He sat up, eyes darting to the door. Closed. Window. Also closed. Wind? No, it wasn't the wind. The whisper came again. Softer. "Liam, I'm still under here." Liam's breath caught in his throat. He dare not move. The room was still, yet the voice had been unmistakable, soft, almost kind, as though it were trying not to wake anyone else. He sat perfectly still for a long time, clutching his blanket with trembling fingers, ears straining for another sound. For a few minutes, there was only silence. Maybe he imagined it. Maybe it was a dream. Then it came again, this time longer. "Liam, I'm still under here. You forgot me." Liam's mouth opened, but nothing came out. He didn't look over the edge of the bed. He couldn't. Something deep inside warned him not to, like the instinct not to step too close to the edge of cliff. The whisper didn't belong in this world. He grabbed his flashlight from a nightstand and held it tight to his chest like a shield. The room felt colder now. The air had weight to it, heavy and still, like the calm before a thunderstorm. He curled up under the covers, squeezing his eyes shut, whispering, "Go away, go away, go away." At some point, he must have fallen asleep, because the next thing he remembered was sunlight pushing through the window. Morning. The whisper was gone. His mother was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee and staring blankly out the window. "Did you hear anything last night?" he asked. She looked at him over the rim of her mug, brow furrowing. "Like what?" "Talking. Someone whispering." "No," she said after a pause. "You were probably dreaming. This place takes getting used to." Liam didn't believe it was a dream, but he didn't argue. He ate his cereal in silence, the milk warm from sitting out too long. That day, he explored the house, trying to distract himself. The stairs groaned, the attic door was stuck shut, and the basement smelled like mildew and something worse, something sour. But the worst room was his own. That night, Liam didn't want to sleep. He tried staying up with his flashlight on, reading one of the old picture books he'd found. But his eyelids grew heavy. The beam of light dimmed, the flashlight flickering, and then the whisper returned. "Why won't you say hello, Liam?" Liam sat bolt upright in bed, flashlight tumbling from his hands and clattering to the wooden floor. The batteries rolled under the dresser, leaving him in darkness. His heart thudded in his chest like fists on a door. The whisper had been clearer this time. Closer. Why won't you say hello, Liam? It was right beneath him. He leapt out of bed, stumbled toward the door, and twisted the knob, yanking it open. He ran down the hallway barefoot, cold floorboards underfoot, his breath ragged as he skidded into the living room. "Mom," he cried. No answer. The house was dark. A sliver of moonlight poured through the tall window by the stairs, but otherwise, all was shadow. The clock ticked on the wall, each second loud and slow. The rocking chair in the corner moved again, just slightly. Just enough. He inched toward his mother's room and cracked the door. She was asleep, turned away, her silhouette rising and falling with each breath. Liam opened his mouth to speak, but stopped. He didn't want to wake her. He didn't want her to tell him again it was only a dream. He closed the door quietly, then crept back to his own room. He stood at the doorway, staring at the bed. It looked ordinary now. The whisper was gone. Nothing stirred. But then, scratch. It came from underneath. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Slow, deliberate. Not like a mouse. Too long, too aware. He reached down for the flashlight, hands trembling as he retrieved it from under the dresser. He flicked it on and crouched beside the bed. His mouth was dry. "Go away," he whispered. No answer. He dropped to his knees and aimed the beam onto the bed. Nothing but dust and old wooden slats. He stared for a long time, not blinking. Just when he was about to pull away, something scuttled from the shadows. Too fast to see. Gone in an instant. He fell backward, scrambling up and throwing the covers off the bed. No, no, no. There was nothing there. But from under the bed came a voice like dry leaves crushed underfoot. "You used to live down here with me." The sentence echoed in Liam's ears. "You used to live down here with me." What did that even mean? He crawled backward, his back hitting the bedroom wall. The flashlight beam trembled in his hand, shaking with the rhythm of his heartbeat. "No, I didn't," he whispered. "I've never been under the bed." Silence. Then, as if in response, came a sound, laughter, dry, wheezing laughter like someone laughing with a mouth full of dust. "That's what they told you. But you were here, Liam. You lived here." He gritted his teeth and covered his ears, rocking slightly, trying to shut the voice out. His mother had said he was a big boy. That meant he couldn't be afraid of things like this. Couldn't be afraid of shadows. Couldn't cry just because something whispered his name. But the fear was deeper than that. It wasn't about monsters under the bed. It was the certainty that something down there knew him. Knew about him. The voice didn't speak again that night. Just breathing. Slow, rhythmic, under the floorboards, as though something was curled up beneath the mattress, just waiting. The next morning, Liam didn't say anything over breakfast. His mother was quiet too, rubbing her temples as she stared into her coffee. "You didn't sleep well," she said finally. Liam looked up. "No, you've been talking in your sleep." "I have." She nodded slowly. "It sounded like you were having conversation, but your voice kept changing, like two people, talking back and forth." Liam blinked. "What did I say?" She shook her head. "I don't know. I didn't want to wake you." They sat in silence for a long time. That afternoon, he explored the attic, trying to get away from his room. It took effort to pull the ladder down from the ceiling, but eventually it creaked open, and he climbed into the dust-choked space. It was filled with boxes, old furniture, a cracked mirror leaning against the wall, and something else. In a corner, he found a small wooden sign, almost like a grave marker. Someone had carved into it, the letters crude and uneven. Liam stared at the carved wood, his pulse thrumming behind his ears. The sign was barely a foot tall, wedged between two boxes as if someone had tried to forget it was ever there. Dust lay thick on top, undisturbed for years. His name. His age. My best friend. But whose? He brushed his fingers over the rough letters. The carving was shallow, done with something dull like a screwdriver or a rusty nail. It didn't look like something a parent would make. It looked like something a child would make for another child. A memorial. His hand trembled as he stepped back. Suddenly the attic seemed colder, the silence heavier. He took the sign and fled down the ladder, nearly falling in his haste to close it behind him. He brought the sign to his room and stared at it on his desk while the shadows of evening crept across the walls. That night, he didn't get into bed. He sat in the rocking chair from the living room, dragged into his room after dinner, facing the bed with his knees pulled to his chest and a blanket wrapped around his shoulders. The sign sat on his lap. He waited. The wind outside rattled the glass. A branch scraped against the house. And then it came. The whisper. "Do you remember now?" Liam didn't move. "I made that for you. I cried when you left. You said we'd be friends forever." The voice was different tonight. Softer. Sad. "They said you were sick. That you had to go away. But I waited. I waited under here. I never stopped waiting." Liam spoke this time, voice barely a whisper. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "You call me Cricket." Liam blinked. The name meant nothing. Yet something in him flinched, as if it should have. He stood and slowly walked to the edge of the bed. He dropped to his knees, hand reaching forward with the flashlight. "I don't remember you," he said, shining the beam under the bed. It was empty, but then in the very back corner, something shifted. A pale shape slid just out of sight. A whisper like breath against his ear, though nothing was near him. "But I remember you." Liam didn't sleep. After the whisper, after seeing that pale shape vanish into the shadows under his bed, he curled up in the rocking chair and stared at the space between the floor and the mattress until the first pale light of dawn trickled through the window. He brought the wooden sign to his mother that morning. She was in the kitchen again, her dark hair pulled back, circles under her eyes. "Where did you find that?" she asked, her voice sharper than he expected. "In the attic," he said. "Do you know who made it?" Her eyes darkened. She looked away, out the window, her lips parting and then closing again. When she finally answered, it was with a strained whisper. "You were very sick when you were little, just after you turned 4. We had to stay somewhere, a facility. You were there a long time." Liam frowned. "Was it this house?" Her jaw tensed. "No," she said too quickly. He held up the sign. "Then who's Cricket?" At that, her eyes snapped to his. "Don't say that name." He recoiled slightly. "Why not?" She set down her coffee with a trembling hand. "When you were sick, you had an imaginary friend. You talked to him constantly, drew pictures, gave him your toys. You used to say he lived under your bed. At first, we thought it was harmless." Liam felt the cold rise inside his chest again. "But then you started having episodes, screaming fits. You wouldn't sleep. You said Cricket was getting angry, that he was going to take you back. What does that mean?" Liam asked, voice cracking. His mother stared at the table. "You were getting worse. Delusions. The doctors thought it was trauma. But when we moved out of that house, it all stopped." She looked up at him. "I didn't want to come back here, Liam. You said someone left it to us. It was abandoned. For years. But it was cheaper than anything else. I thought maybe enough time had passed. That it would be just a house again." Liam's fingers curled tightly around the edge of the sign. "It's not just a house," he whispered. Her voice trembled. "He's still here." Liam nodded, and from the shadows of the hallway behind them, something giggled. The giggle was light, childlike, but twisted at the edges like a laugh heard through a broken music box. Both Liam and his mother froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were wide, lips parted, breathing shallow. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes." That one word cracked something between them. For the first time, she wasn't dismissing it. She wasn't pretending it was a dream, or imagination, or trauma. She was afraid. Liam stood up from the table. "He doesn't want me to forget him." She grabbed his wrist. "Don't talk to it. That's how it started before. You gave him attention. And he grew stronger." He pulled his hand away. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. But I watched it happen. You'd speak to the shadows, and the shadows would answer back. At first, I thought it was your mind trying to cope. But then I saw them move." Her voice broke. "I saw something crawl out from under your bed and sit beside you while you slept." Liam felt his stomach twist. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because we left, and I thought it was over." He turned and ran upstairs. His room was exactly the same. Unmade bed, the curtains swaying slightly in a breeze that didn't exist. He crouched beside the bed and looked underneath. Darkness. "Cricket," he whispered, "what do you want?" Silence. Then shuff. A shape shifted in the blackness, just beyond the reach of the light. A voice came next, high and sing-song. "I want to play again. Don't you remember how fun it was? You and me. Hiding from the bad ones." "The bad ones. They came when you got sick. Said they'd take you away. I saved you." "No," Liam said. You scared me. You still do. The voice darkened, like soot in water. Only because you forgot the rules. What rules? A pause. Rule 1, you never leave me. Liam's breath hitched. Rule 2, if you do, I get lonely. Then louder. And Rule 3, when I get lonely, I climb out. Liam stumbled backward, hitting the nightstand. His flashlight toppled off and rolled in a slow, lazy circle on the floor, casting jagged shadows along the walls. That last sentence echoed in his skull. When I get lonely, I climb out. Mom, he screamed, racing down the hallway. She was already halfway up the stairs, pale and shaking. Liam, what happened? He said he's going to climb out. She grabbed his shoulders. Listen to me. We're leaving. We'll get in the car and go, right now. But a heavy creak rolled through the hallway. Both turned. The attic door above them, the one Liam had found the car sign in, was now open. Slowly, its ladder creaked downward with a groan like something breathing. The air turned cold. Too cold. Frost formed on the banister, and then came the scuttling. From inside the walls, faint at first, scritch-scratch, then again, louder like something with too many limbs crawling through tight spaces. Chittering, soft giggles woven between the scratching, like children playing hide-and-seek. Liam's mother pulled him back, hands shaking. They're in the walls, she whispered. Just like before. Who? There were others, Liam. He told you stories about them when you were little. You drew them, black shapes with no eyes. I thought they were nightmares. But they came at night, in the corners of your room. Sometimes, I saw them too. Liam shook his head. Why would Cricket bring them? Because you were his favorite, she said. And they only come out when he feels ignored. A sharp thump shook the floor above them. They both looked up. Then a second thump. Closer. Louder. A voice echoing down from the attic. You broke the rules. So now they're coming to remind you. The thumping from the attic came again, deliberate, heavy. Then the unmistakable creak of something dragging itself across the floor. Not walking, pulling, as if limbs bent in wrong directions, or something too large was squeezing through a space too small. Liam's mother backed them down the stairs, her voice low and urgent. Don't run. Just walk. Quietly. But quietly, she hissed, eyes fixed on the ceiling as a long crack split the plaster above them. A cloud of dust trickled down like falling ash. Something whispered from above. Liam. They made it to the front door. She turned the knob, but it wouldn't budge. What? She jiggled it, twisted it again. Locked. She turned to the side window. Help me break it. Together they pushed a nearby chair toward the window. But before they could lift it, the lights flickered. The air shifted. It was like stepping into a room that hadn't been opened in years. Musty, thick, and full of weightless dread. Then came a scratching. Not above them anymore. Now from below, underneath their feet. From under the floorboards came the sound of claws scraping wood. Slow, taunting, accompanied by soft, childlike humming. The sound traveled with them as they backed into the foyer. He's mad, Liam whispered. His mother nodded slowly. Because he remembers. You forgot. He never did. Suddenly, the hallway lights went out. Darkness pressed in from every corner. Then, a hand shot out from the floorboards, pale and skeletal, grasping at Liam's ankle. He screamed and fell backward as his mother stomped down hard on the arm. It hissed, an inhuman sound, and vanished beneath the floor. The wood where it had emerged smoked and pulsed. From the shadows beneath the stairs, a new voice joined in, high and broken. You left us down here, Liam. We never left you. Liam's flashlight, now back in his hands, flickered as the whispering grew louder, dozens of voices overlapping. The walls trembled. The air felt full of breath and teeth. And then, from under the floor, Rule 4. If you break all the rules, we come out forever. The house moaned around them, every beam and rafter groaning like it was alive. The front door remained stuck, no matter how hard Liam's mother pulled. The windows rattled as if something was pressing against them from outside or inside, refusing to let them out. From below, the voices continued whispering. A rising chant now, words in a language Liam didn't know, but somehow understood. It filled his head like fog, numbing thought and wrapping his mind in static. He fell to his knees. "Liam," his mother shouted, grabbing his arm. "I see it," he muttered, eyes unfocused. "I remember." Images danced in his mind. A tiny crawl space. Darkness. A pair of glowing eyes. Not scary. Comforting, back then. A hand reaching for his, small fingers curling around his wrist. "You said you'd never leave me," the voice reminded. "I didn't mean to," Liam whispered. His mother's face turned pale. "Don't talk to him." "I have to," Liam said, standing up slowly. "He won't stop until I do." "Then what does he want?" The air seemed to pause, holding its breath. From under the stairs, a whisper so clear it could have come from right beside her. "He knows." Liam turned to the basement door. It hadn't been opened since they moved in. It still had the old latch and lock on it, rusted with a thick chain. His mother had claimed it was unsafe. Now, the chain was on the floor. The door hung slightly ajar. "I need to go down there," Liam said. "No," she said firmly. "That's exactly what it wants." He turned to her, eyes shadowed but steady. "I have to remember." Without waiting, he stepped through the door. The basement stairs creaked under his weight. Cold, damp air rose to meet him. Each step felt heavier, like something was resisting him, pulling at his legs. The flashlight flickered again, but held its beam. At the bottom, the concrete floor was cracked, dusted with dirt and bits of broken toys. Blocks, a stuffed rabbit, crayons, all arranged around a patch of darker earth, looser, disturbed. "Aschalo grave." A child's voice rose behind him. "I waited here. Every day. You said we'd dig tunnels. You said we'd hide forever." Liam dropped to his knees, brushing away the loose soil. And beneath it, pale fingers. Liam's fingers trembled as he brushed more dirt away, revealing not bones, toys. A small plastic dinosaur, a rusted metal car, a broken action figure. Objects long forgotten, half buried in dry soil. Around them were childish scribbles drawn in chalk on the concrete, faded but still legible. In childish handwriting, Liam plus cricket equals forever. His breath caught. Another phrase, scrawled beside it in darker lines. "No more liars. No more leaving." Behind him, the basement door slammed shut. He spun around, flashlight shaking. The beams stretched across the concrete walls, flickering against exposed beams. The temperature dropped. His breath misted in front of him. "You came back," Cricket whispered. "You do remember." Liam shook his head slowly. "I remember you now, but I don't remember making you." Silence. Then, "You didn't make me. You let me in." The shadows on the walls shuddered. Liam turned and pressed his palm against the cold floor, eyes scanning the crawl space in the corner. A hollow opening barely large enough for a child. And inside it, something moved. It wasn't trying to hide anymore. A pale, long-limbed shape crept forward, eyes reflecting the flashlight like a cat's. It had a face like Liam's, only stretched, distorted, grinning from ear to ear. Its voice layered, young and old, playful and furious. "You said we'd always be together. Then they took you away. They tore me out. I was sick," Liam whispered. "They said I was talking to someone who wasn't there. But I was there," Cricket hissed. "I was under the bed. I followed the rules. I waited." Liam stood, heart pounding. "You're not real." Cricket tilted its head. "Then why did you draw me? Why did you name me?" "Names make things real, Liam." Suddenly, the wall to his right groaned and split open. From inside poured thin, twisted figures, children made of shadow and teeth, crawling along the floor and ceiling like spiders. Their mouths were filled with giggles. Their voices overlapped in a horrible chorus. "He made all of us, and we remember." Liam turned to run, but the floor split beneath him. And he fell. Liam landed hard in the dark, the breath knocked from his lungs. Cold earth surrounded him, thick, damp soil clinging to his clothes. The fall hadn't been far, but it felt like dropping through layers of memory. He sat up slowly, his flashlight lying sideways in the dirt beside him. Its beam flickered against the low, earthen ceiling above, revealing gnarled roots and thin, worm-like tendrils pulsing along the walls. The space around him was narrow, like a tunnel dug out by small hands, just wide enough for a child to crawl through. And from every direction, Whispers pressed in. Liam, you came back. Let's play. Stay with us forever. The flashlight's flickering grew worse, then steadied just enough to catch movement. Figures curled up in the soil like sleeping children. Dozens of them. Their eyes opened as he passed. All of them had Liam's face, twisted versions, aged differently. Some smiling, some sobbing. Echoes. His echoes. Every time he'd forgotten, every time he'd buried a fear, a memory, a friend, something had stayed behind. Then he saw it, Cricket. He sat in a hollow at the far end of the tunnel, knees pulled to his chest. His skin was pale as paper, his limbs too long, but his expression wasn't monstrous. It was hurt. Why did you leave me? Cricket asked softly. I didn't mean to, Liam replied, his voice cracking. I didn't know how real you were. You made me real, Cricket said, standing now, his body unfolding like a spider stretching after sleep. You whispered me into the dark. You gave me your fears. You gave me your name. Liam backed up. You're not my friend. Cricket's grin returned, too wide, full of baby teeth that never stopped growing. Then why do I know you better than anyone else? Why do you dream of me every night? I'm the only one who stayed when the lights went out. The earth trembled beneath them. From behind Cricket, dozens of smaller figures crawled forward. Other forgotten friends, figments, nightmares given names. All of them chanting, Play with us, Liam. Play forever. Liam spun around, desperate to find a way out, but the tunnel behind him had collapsed. The soil was thick and heavy, too packed to dig through. The only path forward was deeper, toward the place where all the forgotten ones waited. Why now? He asked, not sure who he was speaking to anymore. Why come back after all this time? Cricket's answer floated through the narrow passage like a sigh. Because you were forgetting again, and you promised. Liam pressed onward. The tunnel opened into a round chamber carved from earth, lit by no source, yet dimly glowing. In the center stood a crooked bed frame, rusted and missing half its slats. Around it were objects from his childhood, drawings, toys, school notebooks. And on the walls, handprints, tiny ones, in dirt, ash, and something darker. The figures gathered around him now, dozens of them. Their eyes glowed faintly. Some limped, some crawled. All of them stared with the same hollow expectation. Cricket stepped in front of the bed, arms spread. This is the remembering room, he said. This is where you first dreamed of me, where you made a space just for us. Liam shook his head. I was scared. I made you because I had to. Cricket's smile faded. And then you left us. You grew up, forgot the rules. You let them tell you we weren't real. Because I got better, Liam shouted. I was sick. I didn't know what was real. Cricket took a step closer. But we were real, Liam. And when you left, we didn't die. We waited. In the dark. In your mind. In your bed. The other figures murmured, their voices overlapping. He left us. He promised. He forgot. Liam stumbled back, breath catching. What do you want from me? To come back, Cricket whispered. To stay. The flashlight buzzed once more, and then died. Darkness swallowed the chamber. And in that dark, something warm and dry touched Liam's hand. A small hand. Familiar. Then a voice, soft and broken. Please don't forget me again. The darkness was total. Thick, alive, pulsing with breath and memory. Liam couldn't move. The small hand in his wouldn't let go. It gripped tighter with every heartbeat, as if terrified he might vanish again. Cricket, he whispered, barely able to hear his own voice. I never stopped waiting, came the reply, softer now, almost childlike again. But you kept walking away, and each time you forgot me, the others, they got stronger. I kept them back. The whispers rose around him, full of bitter longing. You said we mattered. You loved us once. You left us in the dark. Cricket continued, his voice shaking. They don't just want to play anymore. They want to take you back, all the way. They want to live through you. Liam turned his head, trying to see anything in the dark. What do you mean? A flicker of light. Then another. Firefly glows lit the chamber, revealing the eyes of the forgotten ones. Dozens, maybe hundreds of them now, all staring at Liam. Hungry, grieving. They're echoes, Cricket said. Pieces of your mind. All the things you locked away. The fears, the lies, the dreams that hurt too much to keep. They weren't ready to be thrown out. They're just thoughts, Liam insisted. Memories. They're not real. Cricket moved closer, and this time Liam saw the sorrow behind those wide eyes. You made them real when you gave them names. When you talked to them. When you believed in them. You believed in me. The others inched closer. But I can protect you. I always have, Cricket said. Make the deal again, Liam. Let me back in. Let me live in the space under the bed. I'll keep the others away. What kind of deal? Cricket reached out, placing a finger against Liam's forehead. You leave me a place, a voice, a story. I stay with you. I stay beneath you. And the rest stay in the dark. Liam's skin went cold where he touched him. He could feel it, Cricket's need. His sadness. His hunger. Not to hurt, but to exist. Behind him, the others moved closer, murmuring, giggling, clawing at the floor. One final whisper from Cricket. Say yes, or be forgotten too. Liam's breath came in ragged gasps. His back pressed against the dirt wall, and every direction felt like it was closing in. The whispers of the forgotten ones churned around him in a storm of old voices, some crying, some begging, some laughing in tones that twisted the stomach. Don't leave again. You said forever. Don't forget me. Cricket waited, hand outstretched, his two long fingers gently curled like a branch bending under weight. His face, still bearing Liam's childhood features, was tired now. Hopeful. Terrifying. You want me to give you a place to live? Liam said. In my mind. Again. Cricket nodded slowly. Just the space you gave me before. A little corner. Under the bed. In the quiet hour. I'll stay there. I'll be your fear. Your guardian. But you have to remember me. Or I fade. And they take you instead. Liam looked past him. The other things, those broken memories and malformed figments, were crawling closer, some on hands and knees, others slithering like snakes with faces. All of them were him, in some way. Bits of forgotten nightmares, pretend friends with wrong names and worse shapes. What if I say no? Cricket's voice grew cold. Then you stay here. Forever. Not alive. Not dead. Just part of the dark. Liam looked down at the flashlight, dead. His hands dirty, shaking. He looked up into Cricket's face and remembered the first time he ever imagined him. Sitting at the edge of his bed, keeping the monsters away. He remembered believing. I don't want to forget anymore, Liam whispered. But I can't go back to being afraid of the dark every night. You don't have to be afraid, Cricket said. You just have to listen when I whisper. And leave me the space I'm owed. Liam closed his eyes and said, yes. The chamber trembled, not with violence, but release. The others stopped, frozen in place. Then one by one they backed away, dissolving into the shadows, into the walls, into him. Cricket smiled, not wide, not cruel, a real smile, the kind a child gives when you remember their name. Thank you, he said. The earth rumbled, and the floor split again. Liam fell upward. Liam gasped as light exploded around him. Sharp, stinging brightness after so much darkness. He was on the floor of the basement again, coughing up dust. The flashlight was beside him, blinking weakly. Everything looked normal, too normal. The stuffed animals were gone. The chalk drawings erased. No luos esoid, no space. Just cement, dust, and old pipes. The remembering room was gone, if it had ever really existed outside his head. He staggered to his feet, hearing footsteps above. His mother. Liam, she called. Are you okay? I'm here, he shouted back, voice hoarse. I think I'm okay. He climbed the stairs on shaky legs. When he pushed open the basement door, she was waiting, tears in her eyes, flashlight in hand, face pale. You were down there for nearly an hour, she said, grabbing him by the shoulders. What happened? You didn't answer me. I thought I lost you. I had to remember something, Liam murmured. Something I forgot. He didn't try to explain. How could he? Even he wasn't sure what was real anymore. But he could feel something now. Something familiar. Watching. As they sat down in the living room, the air shifted again. The shadows in the corners no longer felt empty. That night, he asked to keep the old bed. His mother was hesitant. It's so old, Liam. I really think we should replace it. But he insisted. It's important. He swept under the frame with a flashlight. Clean, silent. But he left one thing there, a drawing. Him and Cricket, side by side, smiling. It was worn, edges yellowed with age, but still intact. And then he whispered, "I remember." The flashlight dimmed slightly, just for a second. And from the shadows, under the bed, the softest voice replied, "Good." In the days that followed, everything returned to a strange kind of normal. Liam no longer heard the strange scratching in the walls or the whispers from under the bed. At least, not while anyone else was around. But at night, when the world dimmed and the noise of the day settled, he would lie in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and feel something warm beneath him. Not threatening, just there, a presence. At first, it kept him awake. He flinched at every creak of the mattress, every subtle shift of shadow on the wall. But over time, he began to understand that he wasn't in danger. Not as long as he remembered. Remembered the rules. Remembered the promise. Cricket didn't speak often, just soft murmurs when the world was quietest. Sometimes just his name. Sometimes a memory. A joke they'd shared. A game they never finished. And always the same final word before sleep took him. Still here, Liam started drawing again. Sketches of places from the tunnels. Faces of old imaginary friends. Some were sad. Some were strange. Some looked like people he couldn't remember ever meeting. But they all shared the same hollow look. The look of being left behind. He kept the drawings in a folder under his bed, beside the old picture of Cricket. One evening, his mother peeked into his room. "You've been quiet lately," she said. "And you're different. Calmer." Liam looked up from his sketchbook. "I think I'm remembering who I used to be." She tilted her head. "Is that a good thing?" He smiled. "Yeah, I think it is." She left, satisfied, though clearly confused. Parents always assumed growing up meant forgetting to make believe. Liam now knew that was a dangerous thing to believe. That night, he placed his hand over the floorboards and whispered, "Are you okay?" A pause, then a rustle, then faintly, "Always, when you remember." One night, weeks after the basement incident, Liam awoke suddenly to the sound of something tapping, slow and deliberate, against his window pane. He sat up, heart already pounding. It was past midnight. The neighborhood was still blanketed in fog, the kind of fog that pressed against glass like breath. The tapping came again, not insistent, just rhythmic. Liam crossed the room and gently peeled back the curtain. Outside, in the mist, stood a boy, same age as him, same size, but with no face. Just a blank stretch of skin where features should have been. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Yet somehow, the boy tilted his head, sensing Liam's presence, and raised a hand in greeting. Liam staggered back from the window. From beneath the bed, a low hum began. A warning. "Don't open it," Cricket whispered. "That one doesn't belong here anymore." Liam turned. "What is it?" "A remnant," Cricket said. "Something you forgot for a reason. It found a crack." The boy outside raised both arms now, palms pressed to the window like he was feeling for a way through. The glass began to frost under his fingers. "What does it want?" Liam asked. "To be let in," Cricket said, voice thin and strained. "To take your place. To become you. It was made of all the pieces you threw away. Things even I couldn't hold on to." Liam hesitated, the cold air seeping through the window frame. "I don't remember him," he whispered. "That's the danger," Cricket replied. "He remembers you." Liam grabbed a marker from his desk. With shaking hands, he returned to the window and drew a single shape onto the glass. A crude bed with shadows underneath. A ward. A memory. The boy froze. And then, without a sound, he melted into the mist, dissolving like breath into fog. The glass cleared. The cold retreated. Liam dropped the marker and crawled back under the covers. From beneath the bed, the softest whisper rose. "You did good. I'm still here." After the faceless boy vanished, Liam started noticing other tears, tiny ones at first. At school, he walked past the janitor's closet and heard a voice whisper his name. His full name, the one he hadn't used since childhood. In a library, a picture book he didn't remember ever reading fell open to a page with a drawing of a crooked bed and something smiling beneath it. At night, Cricket grew more talkative. "They're hungry now," he said one evening, as Liam lay with the covers pulled to his chin. When you remembered me, it fed me, but also stirred them, the ones we didn't bury deep enough. Liam rolled over to face the space beneath the bed. How do I stop them? You don't, Cricket replied calmly. You choose. What to remember, what to forget, who to leave behind. I'll hold the line, but only if you help me. There was a rustling under the bed, like many hands touching the slats above. Cricket continued. One by one, they'll try to come through. You'll see them in dreams, in reflections, in your old toys, drawings, stories you barely remember. They want to become you again. Take over your memories. Rewrite who you are. Liam's voice trembled. Why me? Because you're one of the few who listened, who believe enough to make us real. You built this house of mind and filled it with doors. Now they want to walk through. The next night, Liam dreamt he was in his old preschool. The walls were made of padded foam. Toys scattered the floor. And all the children had his face. Each one twisted a little differently. One cried constantly, clutching a ruined teddy bear. Another stared at the wall, whispering numbers. A third bled from his mouth, dragging a broken red crayon across the floor. Liam wandered through the classroom until one of them looked up and said, Time to eat. They lunged. He woke screaming. The flashlight on his nightstand had rolled to the floor. From under the bed, Cricket's hand reached out, long-fingered, cold but steady. Liam took it. I'm still here, Cricket said. And this time Liam squeezed back. Liam began drawing obsessively. Pages filled with warped hallways, twisted versions of his old home, closets with endless backs, playgrounds with tunnels that led underground. Each drawing had a purpose. They were maps. Cricket explained it one night. They don't come from outside, Liam. They come from inward, from doors you left open in your own head. These drawings, they're locks, seals. You just need to finish them before the doors widen. So Liam spent his afternoons at his desk, colored pencils gripped like weapons. Red to draw warning signs, blue to sketch memory trails, black to reinforce borders. One evening, he drew a picture of his old elementary school, the bathroom he used to hide in when he felt overwhelmed. A stall with a crack between the tiles. A voice used to whisper through that crack. He had forgotten until now. As he finished the outline, his bedroom light flickered. Then the whisper returned, not from the drawing, but from the wall behind his bed. You left me in the tile. Liam turned, heart hammering. A crack had appeared in the plaster. Hairline thin, but something was pressing through. Cricket's voice boomed from under the bed, louder than Liam had ever heard. Draw it shut. Now. Liam grabbed the black pencil and slashed across the drawing, sealing the stall door with a thick black X. Then he added a symbol, a small eye inside a triangle, one of Cricket's marks. The crack stopped growing. The wall went still. Good, Cricket said, calming. You remember that one just in time. He's one of the louder ones. Liam collapsed onto his bed, exhausted. How many more are there? Cricket didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, enough to keep us busy. That night, Liam slept without dreams. But under the bed, Cricket whispered stories to keep the other voices out. Stories of old shadows. Stories of how they began. And the places forgotten things go when no one remembers them anymore. It started with the sound of bells. Not the sharp chime of a clock, but deep, slow tolls that reverberated through Liam's dreams. The kind of sound that shakes the chest before reaching the ears. He woke with a start. The sheets tangled around his legs. The room was quiet, but the sound remained distant, fading. Cricket, he whispered. No response. He reached under the bed. Nothing. No hand. No whisper. Just cold air and emptiness. Panic climbed his throat. Cricket, he hissed again louder. Then something fell from the ceiling with a soft thud. A piece of paper. He turned on a flashlight and unfolded it. A drawing, in his own hand, but not from any recent sketch. An old page torn from a childhood notebook. It showed a bell tower with spiraling steps built atop a hill of bones. Beneath it, a tiny figure crouched inside a hole-marked home. And just below that, a single word. Down. Liam didn't remember drawing it, but he knew where he had seen that tower before. In a dream he used to have as a boy, where a bell tolled endlessly and someone screamed inside the walls, try and be let out. He didn't hesitate. He pulled his shoes on, grabbed his flashlight, and climbed out his window into the yard. The fog had returned, dense, curling around his ankles like hands. But the bell was louder now, calling him, drawing him, through the backyard, past the twisted sycamore tree, into the woods that edged the neighborhood like a forgotten moat. He moved quickly, ducking low branches, stepping over old bike frames and discarded toys, artifacts of childhood that no longer belonged to anyone. The bell tolled again, and then, between the trees, he saw it. The tower, crumbling, ancient, and impossibly tall, with steps leading up into its blackened mouth. Liam approached the base, where a rusted iron door lay slightly ajar. From behind it, a voice called out, "Liam, help me. They're feeding." Cricket. Liam pushed the rusted iron door open with both hands, metal groaning like something waking from centuries of sleep. The air inside was thick, dust, rot, and the sour scent of old breath. The stairway wound upward, but the voice hadn't come from above. It had come from below. The floor was cracked in the center, stone peeled away like a rotted tooth. A narrow crawl space gaped beneath it, just large enough for someone Liam's size to squeeze through. He dropped to his knees, heart thrumming in his ears. "Cricket," he called again. This time the reply was fainter, but unmistakable. "They found my corners. Liam, they're tearing at the lines." Without hesitation, he slid into the hole, the stone scraping his back as he wriggled forward. The flashlight barely lit the narrow path, revealing clawed walls smeared with old chalk, symbols half erased, messages half finished. He passed one that read, "Don't think its name." Another, "It smells your memory." A scream echoed somewhere far ahead. Not loud, but sharp. Frantic, he pushed harder, dirt filling his shoes, elbows burning. The tunnel dropped, and suddenly he was sliding, downward, into blackness. He hit the bottom hard, landing on cold, wet stone. The flashlight flickered but held. He was in a vast chamber, circular and domed, lit faintly by some source he couldn't find. In the center stood Cricket, or what remained of him. His limbs were longer, stretched like melted wax. His face, barely recognizable, had lines torn through it like someone had tried to erase him and failed. The shadows around him shimmered and writhed. "I held them off," he rasped. "But they wore me thin, Liam. I'm not strong without your memory. You forgot too much." They got in. Shapes gathered around the edges of the chamber. Tall, twitching things with mouths stitched shut. They circled slowly, dragging chains made of bones, their heads lolling like broken puppets. "They're the ones that weren't remembered at all," Cricket said. "Left too long in the dark. They want to be you." Liam stepped forward, tears stinging his eyes. "I remember now. I remember everything." Cricket looked up, face twitching. "Then draw me again." "Before they do." Liam dropped to his knees, pulling his sketch pad from his hoodie pocket. He hadn't even realized he grabbed it. The pencil was tucked behind his ear, worn to a nub. His hand shook as he flipped to a blank page. The air in the chamber grew colder. The faceless things at the edge began humming, a low, broken tune like lullabies sung through cracked throats. "They're reaching," Cricket said, voice thin. "If they take me now, they'll wear my shape. They'll lie in your bed. They'll speak in my voice. You'll forget again." "No," Liam whispered. "Not this time." He began to draw, slow at first, then faster. He remembered Cricket's crooked smile, the way his eyes glinted like light through glass marbles. His two long fingers, always clutching a game piece or snack. His odd posture, like he was always leaning toward a secret. The pencil danced. Lines appeared, clean and sharp. Every curve brought more light to the chamber. The writhing things flinched, shrinking back. One screeched. Liam kept going, sweat dripping from his brow. His hands moved with purpose now, fueled by memory. He shaded in Cricket's messy hair, his patched overalls, his goofy shoes. Then, just as he began to draw the final line around Cricket's heart, the pencil snapped. The chamber went dead silent. The things surged forward. "No!" Liam screamed, dropping the broken pencil and grabbing at the sharp graphite tip. He jammed it between his fingers and scraped the last line onto the paper with blood and graphite mingled. Cricket screamed, not in pain, but in sudden release. Light exploded from the page. The creatures wailed, their bodies unraveling like old cloth in wind. They collapsed into the earth, into the walls, into each other, becoming smoke, memory, and finally nothing. Cricket fell to his knees, breathing hard. His form was solid again. More real. More him. You did it, he gasped. Liam collapsed beside him. I remembered, he whispered, voice hoarse. I'll never forget again. Cricket nodded slowly. They're gone for now, but they'll wait. They always do. Liam looked down at the drawing. It pulsed faintly. A seal. A promise. The light dimmed, and the chamber began to crack along its edges. Fissures ran across the walls, whispering winds hissing through them like dying breath. It's collapsing, Cricket said, rising slowly to his feet. This place wasn't meant to last. Liam stood too, every muscle aching. What is it? A memory vault, Cricket explained. Where the mind stores the things it wants to forget but can't destroy. Yours ran deeper than most. And the tower? Liam asked. Cricket gave a sad smile. The bell calls the forgotten. And when too many gather, it tries to empty the vault. Feed them. You stopped it. The dome overhead began to fall in shimmering flakes, like burning snow. Come on, Cricket said, grabbing Liam's hand. We've got to go before the vault folds. They ran. Back the way Liam had come, through twisting tunnels that now howled with collapsing echoes. Drawings along the walls caught fire as they passed, curling inwards as if consumed by time itself. At the crawl space, they paused. Cricket turned. You'll forget this place again, eventually. That's how it works. Liam nodded, breathless. Then leave something behind. Something that stays. Cricket pulled a scrap of paper from his pocket, one Liam hadn't drawn. It showed the two of them sitting under Liam's bed, smiling. Between them sat a stack of board games and a nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. He tucked it into the crack of the stone wall. Anchored, he said, that one will tug your memory back when it matters most. Then they crawled upward, stone groaning behind them. The sound of bells now distant gone. Liam emerged into the open air, gasping. The forest was quiet. Still, the fog lifted slowly, parting like curtains on a stage. The bell tower was no longer there. Just trees. Cricket stood beside him, solid and real. But already, Liam could feel the edges of the night fading. Like a dream you know was real, but can't quite name. Will you stay? Liam asked. Cricket's smile widened. As long as you remember me. And keep the bed a little messy. They walked back in silence, leaves crunching beneath their feet. The world around them shifted, less hostile now, like something had been fed and for now was full. But deep under the bed, in places Liam would only revisit in nightmares, something still scratched at the floorboards. A warning, a promise, a question. Who else have you forgotten? Section 25, Echoes in the Attic. Liam didn't speak much the next day. At breakfast, his mom asked if he'd been drawing again. She found graphite smudges on the sleeves of his hoodie. He just nodded and ate his cereal slowly, thinking about the tower, the vault, the creatures who wore forgotten faces. Cricket didn't speak either, not in words. He stayed under the bed, quiet but present, like a heartbeat beneath the floor. Sometimes Liam felt him watching, and once, when he dropped a pencil, a familiar hand reached out and passed it back without a word. But something was off. That evening, while digging through a closet for an old photo album, Liam found a ladder leading into the attic. It had always been there, but he never remembered using it. A single string hung from the ceiling. He tugged it. The trapdoor creaked open. Dust rained down, and with it came a gust of bitter, stale air, the kind that carried the scent of closed boxes and closed minds. He climbed up. The attic was vast, far bigger than it should have been. The air felt thick with memory, oppressive with age. Toys he hadn't seen since kindergarten were scattered across the floor. His old tricycle, a plush rabbit with one eye, broken picture frames. In the far corner stood a large, trunk-like cabinet, and as Liam approached it, he noticed the sound, breathing. Slow, labored coming from inside. He touched the handle. Cold. The lock was shaped like a sun, but with too many rays, 18 exactly. A familiar number. Suddenly, a soft knock came from inside. 3 taps. Then silence. Liam jumped back, heart pounding. Footsteps creaked behind him. Cricket stood in the attic entrance now, his eyes shadowed. You shouldn't be here yet. What is this place? Liam asked. Cricket walked toward the cabinet slowly. The things you don't even remember forgetting. The ones you buried too deep, even for me. Something's alive in there, Liam said. Cricket nodded once. Some things. Not all memories fade harmlessly. A pause. If you open this, Cricket warned, you won't be able to close it again. Liam stared at the cabinet. It pulsed faintly, like something dreaming just behind the wood. I have to know, he whispered. Cricket sighed, his form flickering like smoke caught in wind. Then I'll stay with you, he said softly. But you won't come out the same. Liam reached toward the cabinet. The sun-shaped lock seemed to rotate under his fingers, turning itself in ways that defied mechanics. He pressed down on the center, and with a click, the cabinet swung open, not out, but inward, as though folding into a hole that hadn't been there a second ago. A gust of cold, whispering air poured out. Cricket stepped beside him, face tight. Inside the cabinet were shelves, dozens, each one lined with glass jars. Each jar held a floating face. Liam staggered back. They weren't just faces, they were his. His face in different ages and emotions. One of him crying at 5. Another, older, screaming in silence. A third wore a blank expression, eyes milky white and mouth stitched shut. What is this? Liam gasped. Versions of you, Cricket said. Memories you exiled. Emotions you didn't know how to keep. When you bury them, they don't die. They wait. Liam stepped closer, peering into a jar where his younger face pressed against the glass, eyes wide with panic. The lips moved, but made no sound. Can they feel this? He whispered. They are you, Cricket replied solemnly. Every time you ignore a feeling, deny an experience, leave something unresolved, it doesn't vanish. It becomes a prisoner here. One jar rattled violently. It held a version of Liam whose face was split in two, one side smiling, the other weeping blood. It smashed itself against the glass again and again. This one, Cricket murmured, is the you that pretended everything was fine during that year your father left. Liam's throat tightened. I never meant to. You were a child, but that pain still wanted to be heard. The jars began to hum softly, in unison. Liam looked around, overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. Cricket placed a hand on his shoulder. Choose one. Just one. Face it. Hear what it has to say. That's the only way the others quiet down. Liam's hand hovered over a jar near the bottom. A younger version of himself, curled up tight, holding a broken action figure in one hand. Tears streaked his cheeks, but he didn't move. I don't remember this, Liam said. Not yet, Cricket replied. But he remembers you. Liam lifted the jar carefully, the glass unnaturally cold despite the stagnant heat of the attic. As he held it in both hands, the face inside stirred, eyes blinking slowly, mouth trembling as if trying to form words after years of silence. Now what? Liam asked quietly. Speak to him, Cricket said. Let him know he's real again. Liam knelt and placed the jar gently on the attic floor. The face inside looked up at him, afraid but full of hope. Liam swallowed the lump rising in his throat. I don't remember why I locked you away, he whispered. The child inside slowly pressed a hand to the glass. It was tiny, fragile, fingers twitching. Then a whisper echoed from inside the jar. Not from the boy's mouth, but from somewhere behind Liam's ears. The basement, the door, the dark. Images rushed back like a tidal wave. A game of hide-and-seek gone wrong. Adare, a bet, being locked in the basement by kids older than him. No one came when he cried. The dark had felt endless. The silence worse. He remembered clawing at the door, screaming until his throat bled, and afterward, pretending it hadn't happened. Cricket nodded as Liam trembled. You didn't forget. You buried it. I didn't want to feel like that again, Liam said, eyes filling. But that part you did, Cricket said. Alone, Forever. Liam placed his hand over the jar. I'm sorry I left you there, he whispered. The boy inside nodded once. Then his face began to fade, not painfully but peacefully. The glass warmed in Liam's hands. The jar went clear. Empty. The memory had been acknowledged. And with it, something inside Liam eased. Cricket exhaled. That's one. The first echo stilled. Liam stood slowly. Around them, the other jars fell silent. Some dimmed. A few faces even turned away from the glass, as though no longer desperate for attention. But there were many still watching, still waiting. Liam turned toward the cabinet. Do I have to free them all? Cricket's smile returned, worn but proud. Not all. Just enough. Enough to make room for the rest of your life. Liam nodded. Then I'll keep coming back. Cricket's eyes flickered like starlight. That's all they need. The attic closed behind Liam like a whisper, silent, gentle, final. He carried the empty jar down the ladder, clutching it like a token from a place that shouldn't exist. That night, as he lay in bed, the world felt quieter, not just in the house, but inside him. No scratching beneath the mattress, no crawling shadows beneath the door, just the soft hum of the night and the rhythmic sound of his breath. Cricket poked his head out from beneath the bed frame. You did well today. I'm tired, Liam admitted. Cricket nodded. That's what healing feels like sometimes. But sleep didn't come easy. Not entirely. Liam drifted in and out, the dreams strange and thick, like walking through syrup. In one dream, he stood in a hallway made of mirrors. Each reflection was a different age, a different version of himself. Some smiled, others wept. One stared with hollow eyes and no mouth. In the center of the hallway was a door. Behind it, a voice. Lo, familiar. You haven't found me yet. Liam turned sharply, but Cricket was gone. He reached for the door, hand trembling, and the knob turned on its own. The door creaked open. Inside was a room of total blackness, yet he could see the outline of something enormous curled up in the farthest corner. A mass of limbs and features all fused into one awful shape. It breathed slowly, trembled slightly. It didn't speak, but its presence said enough. Liam took a step forward, and the creature stirred. It wore every version of his face, layered like masks. You try to forget me, it finally said, voice like cracking teeth. But I was the one who watched. Watch what? Liam asked, heart pounding. Everything you turned from. The creature rose, towering, and Liam saw that beneath its many masks were even more, other people's faces. Familiar. Unnamed. It moved closer. When the other voices were buried, I stayed. When you refused to feel, I learned to feed. You know what I am. Liam did. This wasn't a memory. It was a habit. A parasite born from every moment he turned away, every shadow he ignored, every feeling he numbed. And it was still growing. The creature loomed over Liam, its dozens of faces twitching and shifting. Some smiled. Others wept. But one, near the very center, opened its mouth and spoke through all the others. I am what's left when you choose silence. Liam stumbled backward. You're not a memory, he whispered. No, the thing agreed, its voice scraping like nails on rusted metal. I'm what memory becomes when it's never faced. It moved closer. The floor beneath Liam's feet cracked and bent inward, as though reality were straining just to hold the weight of this thing. Shadows curled around its feet like living ropes, reaching toward him. I faced the boy in a jar, Liam said, voice trembling. I let him speak. I let him go. The creature chuckled. A guttural, ancient sound. One voice doesn't undo years of me. You've fed me for so long. I don't even need your fear anymore. I exist in your quiet, in the things you say nothing about. Its words hit deep. Liam fell to his knees. I don't want you anymore. I don't need you. The thing leaned down. One of its hands, shaped like a clawed version of Liam's own, reached out and tapped his forehead gently. You don't get to choose when I leave. Suddenly, the dream began to fold inward. The mirrors in the hallway shattered one by one. The walls cracked. Wind roared from nowhere. The creature's body stretched into the void, unmaking the hallway with each breath. And then, Cricket appeared. He stepped from behind a splintered reflection, holding the empty jar Liam had carried down from the attic. I was afraid this one might show up, he said grimly. Liam looked at him desperately. What is it really? Cricket's expression darkened. It's the silence that turns sorrow into rot. It's not a forgotten thing. It's a refused one. It's the voice you smother every time you lie and say I'm fine when you're not. Can we stop it? Liam asked. No, Cricket said, but we can contain it. Cricket held out the jar. You have to name it. You have to say what it is. Call it out, or it'll keep finding you. Liam stood slowly, staring into the swirling void where the creature pulsed like a black heart. He opened his mouth and began to speak. Liam stood firm, the jar in his hands trembling like it was alive. The creature loomed before him, all mass watching, listening, daring him to speak. And so he did. I know you, he said, voice raw. You're the part of me that pretended not to care when my dad left. The part that swallowed anger when Mom cried in the kitchen. The part that smiled at school while something inside screamed. The creature shrank just slightly. Liam stepped forward, trembling but steady. You're what grew when I stopped telling the truth. When I said it's okay, but meant I'm breaking. You're what formed when I stopped talking. The masks flickered. Cricket stood to the side, silent, reverent. Liam kept going. You fed on everything I didn't say. You became stronger every time I stayed quiet, every time I didn't ask for help, every time I buried something deep instead of facing it. The creature hissed, a mask near the center warping into a snarl. If you lock me away, you'll feel it all. The sadness, the rage, the shame. I already do, Liam said, voice rising. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. He lifted the jar. But I'm not letting you speak for me again. The creature lunged. 1,000 faces cried out. Liam opened the jar wide. The vacuum that followed was immediate and terrifying. The thing shrieked, not in pain, but in fury, as the wind around them spiraled inward. The masks tore from its body, flying into the jar one by one, like leaves in a storm. Each one screamed its final thought. You can't survive without me. You'll be hollow. You need me. But Liam held firm. I need truth, not silence. With a final roar, the last of the creature collapsed into the jar, which glowed red-hot in his hands before cooling suddenly. Heavy now, contained, Cricket stepped forward and sealed the lid. Together, they stood in the silence. Real silence. Not the kind that hid pain, but the kind that followed healing. Liam looked down. Will it stay locked? Cricket nodded. As long as you don't stop speaking. Liam turned toward the hallway. Then I won't. Liam awoke with a start. The morning light spilled through his window, soft and golden, without menace. His heart raced, the memory of the dream still raw, like an open wound that had finally been cleaned. He reached under the bed. Cricket wasn't there, but in the middle of the room sat the jar. The same one from the dream. Real now, etched with symbols around the rim, warm to the touch. Inside was nothing visible, but it hummed faintly in his hands. Alive. Contained. He set it gently on his desk and stared at it for a long time. Downstairs, his mother was humming, something she hadn't done in a while. Liam followed the sound and found her standing at the stove, flipping pancakes. Morning, sweetheart, she said, her back to him. He hesitated, and then, for the first time in what felt like years, Liam sat at the table and spoke. Mom, do you remember that time I got locked in the basement? She paused. The spatula hovered over the pan. I thought you didn't remember that. I didn't, but I do now. She turned around slowly, her eyes already welling up. Liam, I was looking everywhere for you. I didn't even know you'd gone down there until it was too late. You wouldn't talk about it. I thought maybe... I didn't want to feel it, Liam said. So I pretended it didn't happen. But it did, and it scared me. She walked over and hugged him tightly, the smell of syrup and fabric softener surrounding him. I'm sorry, honey. I should have talked to you about it more. It's okay, he said, pressing his face into her shoulder. I'm talking now. That afternoon, he went back to the attic. He opened the trapdoor and climbed the ladder. Cricket was waiting in the corner, cross-legged on the floor, looking through a dusty comic book Liam hadn't seen in years. You came back, he said. I will again, Liam replied. Cricket smiled without teeth, eyes flickering with quiet pride. The cabinet still stood there. Some jars were still full. Others had dimmed. Liam walked past the rows slowly, feeling them watch him, but not cry out. "I'm not done," he said. "You don't have to be," Cricket replied. "It's not about being finished. It's about facing what comes next." Liam turned to him. "Will you stay?" "Always," Cricket said, and disappeared beneath the attic floor like a shadow, curling into a familiar space. That night, after brushing his teeth and crawling into bed, Liam lay staring at the ceiling. The soft ticking of the wall clock filled the silence. But he wasn't afraid of it anymore. Still, something tugged at his thoughts. A question he hadn't asked. He rolled over and peered under the bed. Cricket's golden eyes glinted in the dark. "You're awake," Liam whispered. "Barely," Cricket replied, stifling a yawn with his paw. "But you're thinking loudly." "I was wondering," Liam hesitated. "Why me?" Cricket tilted his head. "What do you mean? Why do I have the voice under the bed? Why the jars? The memories? Why not someone else?" Cricket blinked, slow and calm. "Everyone has their version of it," he said. "Some people carry it in their chest like a knot that never loosens. Others wear it in their smiles, tight, practiced. Yours ended up under the bed. In jars. In dreams." Liam frowned. "So, I'm not special?" Cricket smirked. "You're special because you're facing it. Most don't." Liam rolled onto his back, folding his hands on his chest. "I used to think monsters were the things hiding under beds. And now I know they're the things we hide from ourselves." Cricket nodded solemnly. "But once you name them, once you sit with them, they lose their teeth." There was a long pause. Then Liam whispered, "Are there more things? Worse than the voice?" Cricket hesitated, then crawled up from beneath the bed, sitting beside him. "Yes," he said, "there always are. Deeper fears. Older ones. The ones that don't even need a name, just silence." Liam looked at him. "Will they come?" "Eventually," Cricket said. "But next time, you won't be alone. And next time, you'll hear them coming." Outside, wind rustled through the trees. Inside, Liam closed his eyes, not in fear, but in understanding. For the first time in a long while, the darkness felt like part of the world, not a thing waiting to consume him. He would return to the attic. He would keep unlocking jars. He would keep listening. The next evening came with a gentle hush. No storms, no strange whispers, just the kind of quiet that felt earned. Liam climbed back into the attic, flashlight in one hand, notebook in the other. He had begun writing down dreams now. Feelings, echoes that didn't yet have a face. Cricket waited at the base of the cabinet. "Ready?" he asked, already reaching for a small jar on the second shelf. "I think so," Liam said, swallowing hard. "What's this one?" Cricket didn't answer with words. Instead, he held up the jar. Inside, a small girl with wild hair sat curled in a corner. Her eyes were too large for her face, and her mouth was twisted, not in pain, but in fear. Liam leaned closer. The girl turned and met his eyes, and instantly, something snapped in his chest. A memory. He was 7, sitting on the school bus, watching another child, smaller than him, being bullied. She cried quietly, shielding her face as older boys jeered and tugged at her backpack. He had looked away, not because he didn't care, but because he was afraid they'd come for him next. The jar grew warm in his hands. "She remembers," Cricket said. "And so do you." Liam sat on the floor, cradling the jar. "She was just a kid. She still is," Cricket replied, trapped in that moment. "I should have done something," Liam whispered. "Anything. She's not angry. She's frightened. She's still waiting for someone to see her." Liam brought the jar closer, tears stinging his eyes. "I see you," he said. "I should have stood up for you. I didn't. I was scared. But I remember you. I remember your face. I remember what they did." The girl blinked. Then, slowly, she stood inside the jar, eyes never leaving Liam's. "Will she fade?" he asked. Cricket shook his head. "Not this one. She doesn't want to leave. She just wants to know someone remembers." And that was enough. The jar didn't empty, but it softened. The girl smiled. The fear didn't vanish, but loosened its grip. Liam set the jar on a nearby shelf, not back in the cabinet. This one needed space. That was hard, he admitted. And it should be, Cricket said, because it mattered. Later that night, after the house had gone still and the wind had slipped into sleep, Liam found himself standing outside the old hallway closet. His hand hovered over the doorknob. He hadn't opened it in months. Not since the dream. Not since the voice said, "You haven't found me yet." Cricket stood behind him, silent, watching. Liam turned the knob. The door creaked open. It was only a closet, shelves of dusty board games, an old vacuum, a tangled mess of extension cords. Nothing sinister, nothing alive. But at the very back, hidden behind a pile of winter coats, was a box. Small, wooden, familiar. Liam knelt down and slowly pulled it out. The box was carved with the same strange etchings as the jars in the attic. Its latch was slightly rusted, like it had waited years to be opened. "Cricket," he said, voice tight. "Do you know what's in here?" Cricket nodded once. "That's the first voice. The one that crawled under the bed." Liam swallowed. The one that started it all. He opened the lid. Inside, lying on a bed of black velvet, was a tape recorder. No tape, just a recorder. He picked it up. The weight of it felt wrong, like something inside shifted when he moved it. He pressed the play button. A soft hiss emerged. Then a voice. His voice. Younger. Trembling. "I don't want to be alone anymore." Liam's throat closed. "I keep hearing her in the vents. She says my name. She cries sometimes. I know no one else hears her, but I do." Cricket's eyes narrowed. "This wasn't just a voice under the bed, Liam. It came from below. The first time you heard it, you weren't even afraid. You were curious." The tape continued. I think she's real, but no one believes me." The recording stopped. The silence that followed was heavy. "She wasn't imaginary," Liam said softly. "She was left behind, like the others." Cricket nodded. "Then we have to go back," Liam whispered. "To where she started?" "To the vent," Cricket confirmed. "To the place where the first voice waited." The vent was in the guest room, the one no one used anymore. It hadn't been opened in years, not since his father had moved out. Liam stood in the doorway now, heart pounding, staring at the rusted grate low on the wall. It was slightly bent, like something had forced its way out once. Cricket padded silently beside him. "This is where she called from," Liam whispered. The room felt colder than the rest of the house. Not in a drafty way, in a buried way, like winter had never truly left it. Liam crossed the room and knelt before the vent. The metal was brittle. Old screws dangled loose. He pulled it free with little effort and peered inside. Just darkness. Cricket offered him a flashlight. "If she's still down there, she's been waiting a long time." Liam took a breath and crawled forward. The passage was tighter than he remembered. Dust filled his nose and throat. But further in, the duct opened into a small space. An old crawl space, too low to stand in, too cramped for comfort. But there was something at the center of it. A child's blanket. Torn, moldy, but unmistakably pink and blue. A doll with button eyes. A cracked teacup set. And drawn on the walls in what looked like chalk, faces. Dozens of them, all crying. At the far end, something moved. Liam froze. A shape sat hunched in the shadows, facing the wall. Hair long and stringy. Hands clasped around its knees. The same voice from the recording whispered, "You finally came back." Liam's heart thudded in his ears. The shape turned slowly. It was a girl. Her face was hollow, sunken, like it had forgotten how to smile. Her eyes were cloudy with dust, but her mouth moved with perfect clarity. "I called for you. Every night. I remember," Liam said softly. "No one else did," she murmured. "Just you." "I was afraid," Liam admitted. "I thought if I ignored you, you'd go away." She shook her head. I stayed quiet. Because that's what you wanted." Tears welled in Liam's eyes. "I am sorry. I should have listened." She stood slowly. "Can I come out now?" Liam reached out his hand. "Yes, it's time." The moment their fingers touched, the crawl space trembled. Dust scattered. The walls seemed to breathe. The girl stepped forward into the light. The girl stepped out of the crawl space, her bare feet touching the worn carpet of the guest room for the first time in what felt like years, to her and to Liam. She blinked up at the ceiling like it was too bright, even though the room was dim. Her eyes had no whites. Just pale, milky irises swimming in gray. But they glistened as if trying to cry. Liam knelt beside her. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "I don't remember," she said. You don't have to, Liam replied. You're not a ghost. You're a memory. A part of me. You don't need a name to be real. Cricket approached slowly, tail low, cautious. She's not just a part, Liam. She anchored the others. She kept them quiet for years. That's why this room felt wrong. Liam turned to the girl. What do you remember? She tilted her head. I remember the quiet. How you wanted it. You told me, without words, to hide. To wait. So I did. When your dad left. When your mom cried at the stove. When you wanted to scream, but didn't. I was the one who kept it all down. She clutched her small arms. But it got heavy. I got heavy. I know, Liam said softly. And I don't want you to carry it anymore. She looked toward the open vent. Where will I go? Liam pulled something from his pocket. A small, empty jar. One he'd brought from the attic. I'll keep you safe. Not hidden. Not buried. Just remembered. With the others. The girl nodded and took a breath. A trembling, quiet inhale that seemed to pull every corner of the room into stillness. She stepped toward the jar and slowly, willingly, folded into it, like smoke slipping into a bottle. The glass glowed faintly with blue light, then dimmed. Liam sealed the lid and pressed his forehead to the cool surface. Thank you, he whispered. Cricket watched him. You've done what most never do. Liam stood. What's that? Face the part of yourself that tried to protect you by hurting you. The air in the room shifted. The cold was gone. That night, Liam carried the jar to the attic, setting it beside the others. Not locked away, but on a small wooden stool beneath the window, where soft moonlight touched its lid. Cricket curled up beside it, tail wrapped around his paws. That one's important, he murmured. I know, Liam said. She kept everything from spilling over. He sat cross-legged on the attic floor and opened his notebook. His pen moved slowly at first, then faster, spilling out the images he had seen. Her face, the chalk drawings, the old vent. When he looked up, the attic was darker than before. Not pitch black, but thicker. And then footsteps. Not from below, not in the hall, from the attic floorboards. He turned. In the far corner of the attic, beyond the jars and furniture draped in sheets, stood a figure. Not a child, not a dream. A tall man in an old, threadbare suit. Liam's breath caught. Who are you? The figure said nothing at first. Then a voice, deep and hollow, answered, You opened too many jars. Cricket stood slowly, hackles raised. Liam stepped forward. I opened the ones that needed it. The man didn't move. Not all memories belong in the light. Some are kept sealed for a reason. I didn't ask for this, Liam said, though his voice shook. But I did ask to understand. The man's head tilted. And now you do. Enough to be dangerous. The temperature dropped. The air crackled with tension. Liam moved between the man and the jars. These are mine, he said. You don't get to threaten them. They don't belong to you alone, the man hissed. You carry what others left behind. Then I'll carry it. All of it. A long pause. Then the man took a single step forward and vanished. Cricket exhaled. That wasn't a memory. No, Liam said. That was something else. Something that doesn't want you healing, Cricket replied. Something that feeds on what's unspoken. Liam's hand trembled, but he clenched it into a fist. Then I'll speak louder. The following day, Liam noticed something strange. There was a door in the attic that hadn't been there before. Not a trapdoor, not a window. A door, proper and wooden, standing upright along the far wall. Seamless, with no frame, no hinges, just a knob made of tarnished brass. Cricket stared at it warily. That doesn't belong to this house. It belongs to me, Liam said, voice quiet. Or to part of me. He stepped toward it, fingers brushing the knob. It was warm like skin, not wood. Cricket darted in front of him. Wait. Liam paused. That thing you saw last night. The man in the suit, he might have left this. Not all doors should be opened. But I've come this far, Liam said. And it's here. That means it's meant to be found. Cricket hesitated, then gave a slow nod. Just don't go alone. Liam turned the knob. The door creaked open. Not like wood, but like breathing. Behind it was a narrow hallway, impossibly long. Wallpaper peeled from the walls like old skin. Light bulbs flickered above, and the floor was stained with something dark, something that didn't dry. The air inside smelled like rot and regret. Where are we? Liam whispered. Cricket's ears flattened. Somewhere between memory and what you try to forget. They stepped inside. As the door closed behind them, Liam heard it. Laughter. Not a child's. Not mocking. Just wrong. It echoed through the corridor, distant but circling. They passed a mirror with a cracked surface. In it, Liam saw himself, but younger. Frail. Crying into a pillow while a door slammed downstairs. Another mirror showed him silent at the dinner table, pretending not to hear, shouting from behind the kitchen wall. A third reflected a version of him curled up in bed, whispering into the darkness, "Please talk to me again. Please don't leave me alone." Liam touched the mirror. His reflection blinked and whispered, "You asked me to stay quiet." He pulled his hand back, heart hammering. Cricket looked up at him. "You ready for the end?" Liam swallowed. "No," he said, "but I'm going anyway." As Liam and Cricket continued down the hall, the floorboards underfoot began to pulse. Not with sound, but with a slow, living pressure like the hallway itself was breathing in time with their footsteps. Liam tried not to let the rhythm sink into his own body, but it was difficult. Every few steps, the walls seemed to close in and then slowly expand again. Cricket glanced up. "It's responding to you." "What does that mean?" Liam asked, trying not to sound panicked. "It means this place isn't just memory anymore. It's become something else. A reflection. A reaction. Your thoughts shape it. So, if I think about something horrible..." Cricket nodded grimly. "It might appear." Liam clenched his fists. "Then I need to be careful." They reached a door at the end of the corridor. It was different from the last one. Taller. Black wood. And something moved on the other side. Shuffling. Liam raised his hand to knock. Before he could, the door opened on its own. Beyond it was a room. Not a bedroom. Not a living room. Just a space. Round. Featureless. The walls bled in and out of each other like fog. And in the center stood a chair. Occupied. By himself. Not younger. Not older. Not distorted. Just him. Same age. Same clothes. Same cuts on his palms. Same shadows under his eyes. The figure looked up and smiled without warmth. "I was wondering when you'd finally show up." Liam froze. "What is this?" "I'm the part you still won't face," the double said, rising. "The part that likes forgetting. The one that hides when things hurt." Cricket hissed quietly, staying behind Liam. The double stepped forward. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to ask. Are you sure?" "Sure of what?" "That you want to remember everything. Because once you do, you can't forget again." Liam stared at his reflection. "I'm sure." The figure smiled again, and this time there was sadness in it. "Then I'll stop fighting." He stepped back, sat down, and faded. The room dimmed, and a trapdoor appeared beneath the chair. Cricket tilted his head. The final place. Liam knelt beside the door, fingers trembling. He opened it, and cold air rushed upward. Liam climbed down into the darkness, the ladder groaning beneath his weight. Cricket followed silently, his paws making no sound against the rungs. The air down here was frigid, and the silence was unnatural, not quiet, but muffled, like everything had been stuffed into cotton. As his feet touched the ground, the space around him pulsed with a heavy stillness. This was not a basement. It was below the house, below memory. The floor was dirt, black and soft, like it had been turned recently. Dozens of small, wooden chairs sat in neat rows facing an empty wall, as though waiting for something to be projected. Each chair was occupied, not by people, but by versions of him. Children, teenagers, one with a cast on his arm, one wearing the old-school uniform, one with tear tracks on his cheeks, dirt on his knees, one with a black eye, another staring at his own hands as though unsure they were real. They turned to face him as he stepped closer. Cricket didn't speak. He sat behind Liam, tail curled, watching carefully. None of the others moved. Liam whispered, "Are you all me?" The one in the front row nodded. "You left us here," the child Liam said, voice hollow. "To forget. I didn't know what else to do," Liam said. "We don't blame you," said the version in the back, the one with the cast. "But we remember everything. You needed to forget, so we held it. But now you've opened the jars," another said. "Now you've heard the voice under the bed." A final Liam stood. One older, his face tired, his eyes rimmed red. You brought us back, he said. Now we need to give it back to you. He held something out, a black, pulsing object shaped like a heart but made of smoke and wire. This is what we carried. All of it. The silence, the guilt, the fear. Liam stepped forward and took it in his hands. It didn't hurt. It was cold, and then it was warm, and then it simply became part of him. He felt the weight press in his chest. Not painful, just true. A long silence followed. Then all the versions of Liam stood at once, and without a word, walked into the shadows, merging one by one until only he remained. Whole. Real. Cricket padded beside him. You're ready. Liam turned to face the ladder again. Light shone from above. Liam climbed the ladder slowly, each step lighter than the last. The weight he had carried, years of fear, of quiet suffering, of questions left unanswered, was no longer pressing him into the floor. It was still with him, but balanced, no longer hidden. He emerged into the round, dim room where the chair once stood. But it was gone. So was the door he'd entered through. Cricket jumped up behind him and glanced around. Where are we now? The walls began to dissolve into something familiar. Wooden planks, paint-chipped corners, shelves stacked with dusty books. Liam turned a full circle. It was the attic again, but not quite. The air was brighter. The oppressive stillness was gone. Light streamed through the small window at the peak of the gable, painting gold across the floor. The jars sat exactly where he left them, but now they shimmered faintly, as if filled with warm breath instead of cold echoes. I thought it would feel darker when it ended, Liam said, sitting down beside them. Endings aren't always dark, Cricket replied. Sometimes they're just quiet. Liam nodded. A floorboard creaked behind him. He turned. A figure stood in the attic doorway. It wasn't the suited man. It wasn't one of his past selves. It was his mother, or a memory of her. She looked younger, less tired. She smiled the way she used to, softly, like she was holding back tears, but letting joy win. Mom, Liam whispered. She stepped forward, brushing her fingers along the nearest jar. You kept them all. I didn't mean to, Liam said. But I couldn't let them go. Her eyes met his. You don't have to, but you don't need to live in them either. She reached down and touched his cheek. The warmth of her skin was real. I'm proud of you, she said. Then she was gone. No fuss, no sound, just gone. And Liam didn't feel empty. He felt full. Cricket leaned against his side. It's almost morning, he said. Liam looked toward the attic window. Dawn was stretching across the horizon. But the story wasn't quite finished yet. Liam descended the attic stairs with Cricket tucked under one arm, their bodies warm in the morning light. The house felt different. The boards didn't groan beneath his feet. They sighed like they'd been holding a breath for years and had finally let it out. He moved room by room. The hallway was brighter than it had been in years. The stains on the wallpaper were still there, but duller now, like they no longer needed to shout their presence. At the end of the hall, the guest room door stood open, the vent grate securely screwed into place. Liam hesitated at the threshold. The air inside was no longer cold. He stepped in. The chalk drawings on the wall were faint now, faded by time, or maybe by acceptance. In the center of the carpet lay a single object, the little girl's blue ribbon. Untied. Still, he bent and picked it up, rolling the fabric between his fingers. Cricket leapt to the bed and purred once, watching him. She's at peace now, Liam said. Because you are. He nodded and turned, closing the door gently behind him. In the living room, the blanket over the couch had shifted. A cup of tea, his mother's favorite, sat on the coffee table, steam still rising. Liam stepped forward, touched the porcelain. Warm. She's been here, he whispered. Maybe still is, Cricket replied. Just not in the way you remember. Liam didn't cry. He just sat, sipped the tea, and breathed. On the wall across from him hung the family photo, the one he hadn't looked at in years. His parents standing stiffly, Liam grinning with a gap-toothed smile, arm around his stuffed bear long since lost. For the first time, he looked at all of it. The smiles, the stiffness, the missing parts. It was okay that some things would never be whole again. He had found the voice under the bed. He had listened to it. He had spoken back. Cricket jumped into his lap. There's still the basement, he said. Liam raised an eyebrow. Seriously? You didn't think everything was in the attic, did you? Liam groaned, but he smiled too, and together they walked to the basement door. The basement door let out a tired groan as Liam turned the knob. It resisted, like it hadn't been opened in a very long time, or like it had been opened too many times and grown weary of it. Cricket perched on his shoulder, tense and alert. Something old is down there. Older than the jars? Liam asked. Older than you. He clicked on the flashlight and began his descent. Each step creaked beneath his weight, and with every footfall, the air grew colder. Not the kind of chill that came from drafts or dampness, but a bone-deep cold that felt like it had been waiting. When they reached the bottom, the flashlight beam swept across the space. It looked normal. Concrete floors, storage shelves, boxes stacked in corners, rusted tools, an old dryer. But then Liam saw it. A patch of the wall, wrongly shaped. Too smooth, too still. He approached, and as he neared it, the surface rippled. Cricket leapt down, eyes glowing in the dim light. It's not a wall, he said softly. It's a veil. Liam reached out and touched it. The ripple grew, widened, until it opened like a curtain. Beyond it was a void, not pitch black, but colorless. A space made of memory and silence, and something just beyond comprehension. And in its center stood a small, crumbling bed. Not his, but familiar. A child's bed, rusted frame, thin mattress, no sheets, and crouched beneath it, 2 yellow eyes. Liam's breath caught. The voice that had haunted his dreams, whispered from vents, curled around his childhood, was here. It didn't speak at first. Then, you came back. Liam stepped forward. I never left. Not really. You tried to forget me. I had to, he said. You were too much. A pause. Do you know what I am? Liam swallowed. You're the voice under the bed. The fear. The guilt. The questions. The silence. The truth. The eyes blinked. Then movement. The figure under the bed slowly emerged. And Liam saw himself again. But this time, it wasn't a version from memory. It was what he could have become. Eyes too wide. Skin pale from hiding. Mouth stitched shut by invisible threads. The part of him that never spoke. I buried you, Liam said. You buried me, but not what I carried. Liam stepped forward. Then give it to me. All of it. The creature, his other self, emerged fully from beneath the rusted bed frame. Its movements were stiff, trembling, as though the bones had never learned to bend properly. Threads dangled from its mouth, black and fine as spider silk, woven tight to seal it shut. Liam stood firm. Cricket didn't move, but the fur on his back bristled. The figure lifted its head, and the threads began to quiver. Then snap, one by one. The strands broke, each with a sound like cracking twigs, like tiny screams cut short. When the last thread fell away, the figure let out a shuddering breath, its first in years. I didn't want to be quiet, it whispered. I know, Liam said, but I made you be. I was too scared. The figure nodded slowly. I remembered everything. I kept it all for you. The fights, the crying, the nights with no sound but the ceiling creaking above. The secrets. Liam stepped closer. I remember too now. The figure trembled. Then I don't need to exist anymore. No, Liam said. You always will. But you don't have to hide. He reached out, and the broken version of himself reached back. Their hands touched, and like melting wax, the figure began to dissolve. Not in agony, not in pain, but in release. Light spilled out from the center of its chest, spreading through the colorless void. The rusted bed crumbled to ash. The shadows pulled back, and the basement veil collapsed with a whisper like leaves in the wind. Cricket blinked. You did it. Liam turned to him. I think that part of me finally rested. Together, they climbed the basement stairs. This time, Liam didn't feel eyes watching from the corners. The silence in the house was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. He walked back into the living room, sat on the couch, and listened. No whispers, no breathing bends, no footsteps that weren't his. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of a clock, and his own steady breath. Cricket curled into a ball beside him. What now? He asked. Liam smiled. I think I can sleep. That night, Liam didn't stay awake listening. He didn't lie in bed watching the shadows shift or jump at creaking wood. He didn't check under the bed. He didn't stare at the vent, waiting for breath that wasn't his own. He simply laid down. Cricket curled up at the foot of the mattress, tail tucked neatly to his chest, his golden eyes soft and unafraid. The house didn't groan or shudder. No footsteps crossed the hall. No soft crying came from the walls. For the first time in years, Liam closed his eyes and slept. Not the twitching half-sleep of someone expecting to wake to screams or the icy press of fear, but a true sleep. One where the past didn't reach through the mattress. One where the bed was just a bed. And he dreamed of his mother humming in the kitchen, of summer afternoons with sun-poured rooms, of Cricket chasing dust motes through the attic window. He dreamed of a house that had once frightened him, now sitting still and content, no longer warped by fear or shaped by silence. It breathed with him now, steady, alive, whole. When Liam woke the next morning, light was streaming through the curtains. The clock read 9:12 a.m., late, and for once it didn't matter. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. No heaviness in his chest, no sinking in his stomach, just the ordinary quiet of a house without secrets. Cricket padded up to his chest and sat. "Well," he asked. Liam smiled. "I slept. I noticed. You didn't call for me once." Liam sat up, stretching. "I didn't need to." He stood, walked to the hallway mirror, and looked at himself. The same face stared back, but not tired, not haunted. He looked like someone who had finally come home. The house still had its scars. So did he, but they weren't bleeding anymore. He could walk every room now without flinching. He could hear silence without fearing what hid beneath it. He was no longer afraid of the voice under the bed, because now it was his own, and he had listened. Later that morning, Liam decided to open every door in the house. Every closet, every cabinet, every drawer that had sat untouched for too long. It was a quiet ritual, one that felt less like cleansing and more like acknowledgement. He started in the hallway closet, where coats from his childhood still hung like ghosts of winters past. He ran his hand over them, chuckling when he found a pair of snow boots 2 sizes too small. In the guest room, the one where he'd heard whispers through the vents, he pulled back the bed and found a single forgotten slipper beneath it. He smiled, remembering the night he'd been too scared to reach under and had slept without it, convinced something would grab his hand. "I was so little," he murmured. "You weren't weak," Cricket said from the doorway. "Just small. There's a difference." In the attic, the jars now shimmered gently in the light. He didn't smash them. He didn't need to. He simply dusted them, moved them to a shelf with care. They were no longer prisons. They were memorials. But it was in the living room, behind the old bookshelf, where he found something he hadn't expected. A loose board. Liam knelt and pried it free, revealing a small cavity between the studs. Inside, a crumpled envelope yellowed by time, the edges curled and fragile. He pulled it out, hands trembling slightly. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. To Liam, if you ever hear it too, his mother's handwriting. He sat down and opened it, heart thudding. The letter read, "My dear Liam, if you're reading this, it means you've heard it. The voice under the bed. I heard it too when I was your age. I didn't tell anyone. I thought I was crazy. But it was never madness. It was memory. It's passed through this house, through us. It's not evil. It's not a curse. It's pain. Yours, mine, ours. And it only grows when we don't speak. If you're reading this, you've faced it. And I am so proud of you. Always love, Mom." Liam read the letter 3 times, then folded it gently and placed it on the mantel. His hands were shaking, but not from fear, from release. Liam wandered through the house slowly now, not searching for shadows, but listening to the creaks, the sighs of floorboards, the hum of old pipes. He understood now that these weren't signs of something sinister. They were signs of age, of memory, of survival. He paused in the dining room, where the table still bore the old heat marks from casserole dishes long gone cold. He remembered birthday candles here. Arguments, too. His father leaving his chair pushed back too far. His mother eating last, always. Cricket leapt onto the table and looked around. It's all still here. Even the things you forgot. I haven't forgotten, Liam said. I just stopped letting them hurt me. He turned and walked to the wall with the peeling wallpaper. Behind that wall, in the bones of the house, voices had once lived. Now it was just wood and dust. But when he pressed his hand there, he didn't feel dread. He felt warmth. He walked outside for the first time in days, the screen door creaking open and then slamming gently behind him. The yard was overgrown, the grass tall, but sunlight touched every inch. The breeze carried the scent of lilacs and old wood. The world hadn't changed. He had. I think I'm ready, he said aloud. Ready for what? Cricket asked, following at his heels. To live here again. Not survive. Not hide. Not endure. Live. Cricket blinked slowly. Then we better clean the damn place. Liam laughed. A deep, full sound that startled a few nearby crows into flight. They began the process together. Opening windows. Dusting shelves. Sweeping the corners where cobwebs ruled. It wasn't cleansing. It was connecting. And through it all, Liam felt the voice under the bed. Not gone, not erased, but changed. No longer a whisper in the dark, but a quiet memory in the walls. The sun was high when Liam reached the attic again. This time he brought a box, one not for storage, but for keepsakes. He carefully placed the jars inside, one by one. Each clink against the others felt like a bell toll for the past. Not in mourning, but in tribute. The smallest jar, the one that had glowed faintest, he held a moment longer. It had once held the cries he never let out as a child. Now it was empty, silent. Cricket sat atop the old trunk nearby, watching. You're really staying? The cat asked. Liam nodded. This place was never haunted, just hurting, like I was. He packed away the ribbon, the drawings, the fragments he had once thought dangerous. They were just relics now, symbols of things he had faced and claimed. He opened the attic window for the first time in over a decade. Dust swirled into the sunlight, dancing in currents that looked like gold threads. A warm breeze entered, shifting the floorboards slightly. Feels like the house is breathing easier, Cricket said. It is, Liam replied. We both are. Downstairs, the house smelled of lemon oil and old wood. The air no longer hung heavy. Liam brewed tea, not because he needed comfort, but because it felt like home. He poured a second cup and left it by the fireplace, just in case. The silence no longer held tension. It was restful, like an exhale after years of holding a breath. Liam sat on the porch as the sky began to turn orange. Across the street, lights blinked on in other houses. Children laughed somewhere nearby. A dog barked twice. Normal sounds, living sounds. Inside, the house settled gently, and Liam whispered, "Thank you," not sure to whom, but feeling it needed to be said. "Thank you," came Cricket's soft reply. The first star blinked into the sky. Night came gently, and for the first time in a very long time, Liam looked forward to it. That night, Liam did not turn on the hallway light before heading to bed. He didn't hesitate at the top of the stairs, didn't glance behind him as he passed the vent. He simply walked, steady and unafraid. His bedroom was quiet, bathed in moonlight spilling through the window. Cricket was already curled on the blanket, eyes half-lidded. Liam slipped beneath the covers. He stared at the ceiling a moment, as he used to do, except now, he didn't wait for the voice. And then, just as he began to drift off, he heard it. Soft, gentle, familiar. Not from the vent, not from beneath the bed, from within. You're safe now. The voice was his own, spoken clearly, without fear, without silence.